of transport has been a particularly persistent thorn in the side of EU policymakers in recent years. Emissions levels for CO2 and a series of harmful pollutants remain unacceptably high, and there is still an excessive degree of dependence on conventional fuels. In this context, Europe's leading alternative fuel, automotive LPG, also known as autogas, is poised to play a greater role than ever in helping meet Europe's energy and environmental challenges.
There are more than 5 million passenger cars which are powered by autogas in Europe, in the EU 27. Autogas is today the largest alternative fuel in Europe. As an industry, we should be proud of having more than 26,000 filling stations across Europe.
Autogas cars are already being widely used in many countries. There has been a 50% increase in the number of autogas cars in Europe over the past 5 years. This growth trend is reflected in almost every country in Europe. Poland now has more than 2 million on the road, Italy 1 million, and other countries such as Germany are showing rapid growth. So autogas-powered cars are already being driven all over Europe. But how are they helping Europe achieve its environmental and strategic goals?
Autogas is a cleaner, a greener fuel. Autogas is a low-carbon fuel, and it also improves the security of supply of Europe.
It's not just the LPG industry and individual drivers who can see the benefits of driving on autogas. Public authorities across Europe are also using it.
We have, for the moment, in the Brussels Ministry, a fleet of 60 vehicles on autogas, and our experience is very good. We choose autogas because it was the only alternative for reducing CO2 impact. So we refitted 60 vehicles we bought to autogas, in the hope to reduce our CO2 emission and impact in Brussels region. On peak pollution days, driving with autogas doesn't contribute to smoke and dust pollution, so a good alternative. We, as a public service, we like to be an example for the Brussels inhabitants.
Autogas currently powers 2% of Europe's passenger cars. The European LPG Association believes this figure could rise to 10% by 2020.
The European LPG autogas industry has just released an autogas roadmap, trying to set the future for the industry until 2020. And we are forecasting major benefits for the European society if the 10% target is reached by 2020.
The benefits that he is talking about are no small thing. Independent research institute Transport and Mobility Leuven, whose analysis has underpinned many of the EU's environmental initiatives, projects that if 10% of Europe's cars were autogas, there would be 350 million tons of avoided CO2 emissions. 20 billion euros saved in external costs for European society. 41 billion euros in savings for individual motorists. A 7 billion euro contribution to Europe's balance of payments. These savings, however, require policies which are more coherent, especially at EU level.
I think from a policy standpoint, there hasn't been enough focus on the potential for autogas, on the potential for some of the gaseous fuels. And I think also we're in an environment where still liquid fuels are the dominant status quo. And I think it's time for these industries to start looking at the broader opportunities for the alternative fuels that we know will get us from where we are today to the future visions that policymakers have. The gaseous fuels have suffered from the lack of research and development investments from the public sector. And for the gaseous fuels, it's almost entirely been from the private sector funding. Gaseous fuels, LPG, natural gas, those industries don't need a huge amount of funding, but they would benefit from some R&D.
We do see also some research and development programs going on in Europe on biopropane, biobutane. So I mean, potentially is the opportunity to see maybe not tomorrow, but after tomorrow, bio autogas at the filling station. So there are good developments. It's not the fuel of the past, but it's really part of the future.
Paul Voss of the European LPG Association believes that the EU can do a lot to foster the emergence of alternative fuels.
What would really help move things forward is for the European Union to consider some sort of concrete policy framework for the development of alternative fuels in general. So we would need a fuel-neutral approach, not focusing on any one alternative solution, but rather on the whole gamut of alternative fuels, of which autogas is only one. So we would certainly support the emergence of an alternative fuels directive, or even in a first step, a communication analysing and discussing the potential of alternative fuels.
European policymakers are standing up and taking notice. At a recent roundtable event at the European Parliament on autogas, a senior official from the European Commission had this to say on the subject.
There is room for alternative fuel in transport. And alternative fuel are maybe just banal fuel that we know since years, which policy and technology have to help to introduce in the market. Maybe we have not to find very innovative, futuristic solutions. There are much more simple solutions.
I think everybody, whether we're talking about stakeholders representing a certain industry or private citizens or national governments, everybody is looking to the European Union to provide a framework to help address these various policy concerns that we have: climate change, security of supply, air quality. I think for the alternative fuel sector, there's probably never been a better time to engage with the policy community to try and move the issue forward and exploit this obvious potential.